Women, according to Sherry Sandberg, need to shift from thinking, I am not ready to do that, to I want to do that and I will learn to do that by doing it. What this simply means is taking the bull by the horn and walking the talk. Good evening and welcome to another edition of Women on Wheels. Wow. It is a 30-minute talk show designed to educate, inspire, inform, and motivate the female gender, daring and challenging her world beyond the transportation wheel. I am Taiwo Barua. Good evening and welcome. If you're just tuning in, you're listening to Women on Wheels while on Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM. And the program is powered by Elizade Toyota Nigeria Limited, the sole distributor of the Toyota automobile brand in Nigeria. This week on the show, we shall be looking at the women's world in the academia, dissecting her place and how she strives to the pinnacle of her career. I took this conversation to a phenomenal woman who shared with me her thought about women holding leadership positions. You want to know who this phenomenal woman is? Then keep it locked down here on Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM. Program airs every Tuesday at 7:30 here on Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM. Leadership requires listening first with an understanding heart and then act with a decisive mind. But some people believe women take decisions based on emotions. I took this notion to Bolanle Ismail, a lecturer at a leading private higher institution of repute in Ogun State. Bolanle Ismail is passionate about youth education, personal development, women empowerment, sustainable entrepreneurship, and charity. Lagos, Nigeria, let's connect with Bolanle as she takes us through the world of women in the academia. Let's get down to business, Bola. You are a lecturer spanning almost 2 decades, well over almost a decade and a half. And in this part of the world, most of the professions or careers, so to say, are usually male-dominated. Most. Emphasis on most, because in some areas, you would find women thrive more. As a lecturer, share your experience with me, how the journey has been for you.
Thank you so much, Taiwo. So this issue borders on a number of factors, but it is an issue centering around women taking up roles in the workforce, women assuming roles and women staying on those roles, standing on businesses, to the point of getting to leadership positions where they can have a significant influence in change making. But I would like to talk about how this has been since I have started my career as a lecturer. I will speak on things that I have noticed in the nearly a decade that I have been, formally within the lecturing/teaching space. First of all, I have noticed that significant number of people that I have as colleagues are males. And so if we have 12 lecturers, for example, in a department, we will be just 2 of us or 3 at most that will be females. And of the 3 of us, maybe 1 will be in a senior position, inching towards the leadership point, and then we will have others, acting as it.
Okay.
And so I noticed that although, people would tell you that the teaching profession or the teaching space or the lecturing space is, more women centric. But I have found that reality is quite different. Maybe in another, setup. So I work with higher institution, but maybe in a secondary school, for example, or primary school, for example, the statistics, the data may be different. But for higher institution, I will tell you that the number of the people that are in the majority tilt more towards the male.
What do you think is responsible for that? Having more men at the higher institution level.
Okay, so while I do not have very specific reasons as to why this is like that, I can tell you that there are a number of factors that may contribute to having limited number of women teaching at the higher institution. Okay, so one is that the males, because of less domestic responsibilities that they have, for example, will be able to ride, on academics till the top of their profession. So it will not be hard for them, for example, to start a PhD and get a PhD done. As opposed to if a woman would start a PhD. So a number of things can make a woman, have an elongated amount of years sorting through a PhD, which is a major prerequisite to getting to leadership, positions in the higher institution, academic teaching cadre. And so if you start a PhD, you could get pregnant in the, in between. You could, you're raising kids if you are already married. You have family, issues to sort through. And all of this could be contributing factors to, why a number of women may, one, complete their PhD later than is expected. Two, drop off, right? Totally. Because if you get to a point and you're not able to manage or balance things properly, you could drop off. You could, just abandon it. And in the long run, that stalls the number of years you will be needing to get to at least a leadership, position within the academic environment.
Okay. Now, we're speaking to the academic environment because that is where you thrive. Let's not look at it from this angle, because even in the academics environment, to a reasonable extent, some people actually believe that the women can actually be difficult to deal with or even manage. Hence why they thrive more in the teaching sector, the primary, the secondary, because to a reasonable extent, some people believe they are firm, they're difficult to deal with. However, in the higher institution sector, which is like an extension, right? Can you share with me, do women really rise to that level, to the peak of their career? If they do you share the sentiment that women are difficult to deal with? And are they that firm to manage the male folks in that kind of environment, which is the higher institution?
All right, thank you so much. So let me first of all start by dispelling the notion, right? So there's this ongoing agenda to make women look like they're difficult human beings, one, to deal with, difficult people to manage. When sometimes the people perpetuating this sort of ideas have not even had experiences relating to women, to all women, right? And so from what are they drawing their conclusions that women in general are difficult to manage or they are difficult to deal with? So you could have a situation, and it would be an isolated situation, a situation where a woman, is difficult, right, as a person, or difficult to manage. But that cannot be generalized. And the way you have it like that is also the same way you have it with the men folk. You will have, a group of men that are difficult to manage and difficult to deal with, or with very difficult to handle personalities. And so if you will have, these things showing up as examples within the male folk, then why shouldn't you cut women some slack? plus you cannot use the isolated cases of just one or two people to generalize to the entire gender of females. Number two, of course, in spite of challenges, I have found women, I have worked with women within the academia that have risen to the top of the career, that have become heads of department, that have become university librarians, that have become deans, of colleges. I have also seen, not just where I work, in other private or even government-owned institutions, women rise to the upper part of the chain, of the management chain. So we have women vice chancellors in universities, across Nigeria, and that speaks to how women, in spite of challenges, have the ability and also have been given chances to get to the top of their career and to get to the top of the management. And this is not dispelling the challenges women face in getting there, and this does not also negate how, in comparison, the numbers are few when you take into consideration the popularity, of finding women at, managerial positions, within the academics, as compared to how you would find it popular among the male folks. So I want to say that people usually deliberately like to mistake or misquote firmness for difficulty. So when a woman is not taking, like a classical attitude, for example, to studies, students can tout you as difficult. When a woman is sort of firm and also saying, no, you will not relegate me to administrative duties, I want to also, be part of the decision makers, then they will start to tout you as being difficult to manage. The same things that, the men sometimes do not even need to say, before they are not, pushed to do such duties. Sure. We'll find women being, given names just because they are being vocal about what they want, what they need, and what they think, they should be entitled to. So I do not support the idea, and I do not agree with the notion that the entirety of the female folk or the female gender within the academia and outside of the academia are difficult to manage as species.
All right, then. So in the course of your response, you mentioned challenges women encounter, in the course of their career. Can you mention some of these challenges, while trying to rise in the course of their job? You're listening to Women on Wheels here on Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM. If you're just tuning in, I have been speaking with an astute lecturer spanning over a decade. Bolanle Kolaole is on the program with me tonight. And yes, we have been discussing a whole lot. But then I will take a break now. Certainly, when I return, the conversation continues. The program is still Women on the Wheels here on Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM. Wow, is what you are listening to. That was Bolanle Ismail there. Yes, basically, she's been able to take us through the world of academia and how it operates in their own field. Of course, the giant strides of women, their challenges, their gains, their wins, and all of that. All right, Bolanle Ismail apparently confirmed to me, in the course, she also confirmed to me in the course of that interview that as much as women are believed to allow emotions, overcloud their judgment in decision making, there are men who are not any different. Let's hear All right, Lagos Traffic Radio 96.1 FM. Very much with me in the studio is Bolanle Kolawole. Bolanle, let me ask you this. Before we took the break, you were actually telling me some of the challenges women face. And of course, you did say some are biological and some are man-made. Now, let's talk about emotions. In the last edition of this show, my guest on the show actually mentioned something about emotion, and that women need to stay in control of their emotions. Some people believe that women attach so much emotion, they attach sentiment to things. Do you agree with this notion?
All right, so I am glad that the emotional conversation, the emotional factor is being brought up in a conversation that has to do with women and their abilities, to be in leadership or to maintain leadership positions, or to even, survive in the careers that they have chosen. A number of studies have alluded to how women are emotional creatures. And these studies, come around with evidences, because of the data that they have been able to gather. And to an extent, these researches, these studies are right. But I am going to say other things, apart from establishing that women are emotional, creatures. But that is not the entirety of women. Of course, there are women who do not, know how to stand on businesses, who allow their emotions to override their sense of logic, who allow emotions to becloud their minds, who allow emotions to affect their decision making. And so this is something that women may need to, and these are women that are likely to be affected by that. They will need to work on that. But there are women on the other end of the spectrum who have, maybe as a result of upbringing, personal development, trainings, have been able to identify, what is logical and what is emotional.
Absolutely.
And they have been able to properly, manage, these two. And a sense of logic, a sense of reasoning has its perks. A sense of emotion, being emotional also has its perks, for women in the course of their careers. But it is important now for the, women that do not know how to properly manage their emotions to find active ways of doing that. It is not to say that there are not men that are emotional. Again, the society likes to perpetrate, these particular ideas around women just to make them feel like or look like they are incapable of holding certain positions or incapable of being in certain positions, and so they would do everything to undermine, a woman's ability. It is important that we ensure that there's meaningful representation and engagement of women in leadership. Help women get to the legislature, place them in the courts, have them be part of executive boards, community councils, ensure they are part of the law, ensure that decisions are made taking into consideration inclusiveness, representativeness of genders that we have, so that diversity can be achieved. The evidence is there. When you see companies, that have women as part of their leadership, a good number of, businesses with women as part of their leadership. If you also notice, countries with a greater proportion of women as top decision makers in the legislatures have lower levels of income inequality. It's there. Studies have shown. Another study has shown that peace agreements are 35% more likely to last at least 15 years if women leaders are engaged in its creation and execution. Why then are we not helping women get to this top? And what's the way forward? That is the essence of this conversation.
Yes.
It is important that there's a case, made for balancing the power equation in leadership. The need for this has never been more clear. Elevate women in decision-making benefits, whether in politics, in businesses, and in communities. So the action that we need to be taking is, one, we should commit to gender parity in leadership. If you are having men hold, leadership positions to a particular percentage, let the women to also maintain such percentages. Number two, implement laws and regulations that guarantee a safe and open environment for women's participation. Do not let us shut our eyes, to the challenges that are biological, for example, for women. And this is where we are coming in. We are trying to ensure inclusiveness. And so it is important that there are laws, there are regulations that guarantee safety, openness in the environment for women's participation and leadership.
Tell me, in 2 minutes, what's the experience like behind the wheel with the male counterparts on the roads?
Okay, so I should first of all start with the fact that I'm a skittish driver. I'm not a professional driver.
Okay.
The learning stages can say that there have been funny experiences driving alongside, the male counterparts. Them uttering, sentences like, "You're Elena. You should be at home. You're Elena. You should allow somebody drive you. In fact, they will say that they want to drive you. And most times, I just mutter under my breath, "Come and collect the key." Come and take the key. Because, they can be condescending, to women.
Sure.
Women driving. And so even when they can see clearly that you have the learner's tag or the learner's permit attached to your car, and
they just want to harass you.
They just want, that's the word. So our male counterpart just wants to harass you off the road, right? But those skittish now, I am hell-bent on getting to the professional level, and I'm also hell-bent on not allowing their utterances distract me from the goal of, being a better driver and also being a better road user.
Finally, Bolanle, in your own opinion, who do you think is a better driver, a man or a woman?
Oh, I do not think there's a competition, with the driving. We have women doing beautifully well as drivers. So there's something I see sometimes, and I still marvel at it, which is whenever I come across women driving buses or women driving tricycles, I just love that. Now, this is not strange to me, right? Yeah. I just love that I'm seeing women, do all of this, which in the past was not it. It was rare. If it even existed, in the past, to have women, be public transport operators. But it is beautiful to see. And so I do not think it is a competition between who is a better driver. I think that men are capable of driving very well and are also capable of driving insanely. And there are women that are capable of driving well and are also capable of driving insanely. And I do
absolutely
gender has anything to do with it.
All right, then. Thank you so much, Bolanle. I must let you go now. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Taiwo.
All right, then. The voice of Bolanle Ismail there, a lecturer at one of the private university in Ogun State. She did. I would just wrap it up with something she said at the end of our conversation, that there is no competition between who is a better driver. As a matter of fact, in all spheres, we are not competing in any way. This is just, to balance things in all spheres. All right, this is where we'll drop the anchor on today's edition of Women on Wheels. Wow, this program has been brought to you by Toyota Nigeria, and it has been produced by Ajose Olawale, Idowu Adeyemi Fumilade Akengbagbon. Our executive producer is Tayo Akonle. I remain Taiwo Barua. The program makes a return next week, Tuesday, same time at 7:30. Until then, do have a pleasant evening.